BlogTalkRadio, the world's largest online radio network.
Well, hello, and welcome to another exciting, post-pounding, mind-warping edition of Sci-Fi of the SFP Now podcast, which is part of the SciFiPulse network here on BlogTalkRadio. Today's guest is a good friend of mine. We've been in contact with each other since 2008. We've drank and shared time together at the Thought Bubble convention a few years back. It's Cy Dethan, and he's going to be talking about his brand new trade paperback, which is coming out in November. It's Cancertown 2, and it is the sequel to the first Cancertown, which was called An Inconvenient Tooth. Number 2 is called The Blasphemous Tumors. And as you can guess by the mere title, it's a fun, if not somewhat creepy ride at times. And Cy's going to be talking about that along with lots of other stuff that he's doing. And to save me from giving away too much away of this interview, we're just going to take you straight to it. And then once the interview is done, I'll go through some news headlines. So here goes. I'd like to welcome my good friend, comics writer extraordinaire, Cy Dethan, to the show. Now, Cy brings a certain darkness to comic books. He's doing a lot of horror stuff, thrillers, and you got a lot of stuff coming out this year, haven't you, Cy?
Yeah. So they tell me. Well, we already had White Knuckle, my serial killer book that I did with Valia Capare, that came out at Bristol. We've got the Cancertown sequel, Blasphemous Tumors, coming out at Thought Bubble in November, and we're just kind of rolling on from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, White Knuckle, if you tell us a little bit about that, because unfortunately I haven't actually read the PDF of that or got a copy, but I did see on your website that it actually got a really good review from Starburst magazine.
Certainly did, yeah. They did a lot of good with that. But yeah, I mean, White Knuckle started out as just because you never really know where these stories are going to come from, and it's very difficult to talk about what your inspirations are without coming off like a massive twat. But if I was to wear the twat hat for just a second here, this one actually was just I happened to see an old guy. This is back when I lived in London. Just sitting on the underground, I sort of shared this train ride with this guy. There was like 3 or 4 stops or whatever. And he was like completely lost in his own little world. And the guy was about 70 years old, and had sort of his hair was sort of straggling. He wasn't sort of well. He obviously wasn't well looked after. And he was just staring on what appeared to me at the time to be growing horror at his own hands. And I was just by the time we'd shared this little 15-minute, if that, journey, I developed a whole backstory for him about how he was, the most successful of Britain's, long history of serial killers who'd evaded capture so long, and now after 30 years, since he killed his last victim, he's now stuck in this realization of quite what a monster he's been through all his life, and the whole thing just came out of that, and then. I'd seen Valia's art from some work that she was doing with Rich McAuliffe, and there's this incredible sort of lyricism to it. There's this poetic quality to it, and it had never, it would never have occurred to me to put, the kind of writing that I would tend to do with this type of art. But she was really in tune with it straight away, because of this softness that she has, this very delicate touch, just elevated the story far beyond what it might have been with a more literal style. So the book itself came out being something that I'm really, really very happy about, because it's not like anything else I've done, and not really like anything else I've seen. So I mean that was the book that came out earlier this year.
I mean, I've got to admit, this is something that runs in all your books. You you always, all your books from the visual art sense are all very different, and that's something that I really like.
I've got this track history now of which is hopefully now becoming quite a good reputation maker. That I'm a good person to do your first book with, because so many of the people that I've been sort of paired with on these various projects have then gone on to paid work and success, and it's I'm still here wherever I was, but I'm a nice stepping stone for an artist looking to looking to make their mark.
I mean, I love the stuff that Peter David Douglas did for you. I can't remember what book that was for now, but Peter David Douglas and his artistic that they did.
Yeah, well, I've done 1 and a bit projects with Peter David. The first time I sort of encountered him was him and his artistic partner Neil Van Antwerpen. They worked on Starship Troopers on the triple threat.
Mm-hmm. But I also seen the stuff that my introduction to their artwork was Tony E's Harker. The work they did in that was absolutely spectacular.
And sort of concurrently with that, they were working on a book called The Ragged Man with me.
Yeah, which that's one that I haven't got yet. I'm going to have to sign.
That's going to be a while coming, because they've got a lot of commitments now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know when. I wouldn't want to put a date on that.
Yeah, because I think we ran some of the artwork on the SciFiPulse.net website from Ragged Man.
They did some staggering stuff on that.
They did. They're just such good artists. Mm. The pair of them, and they're actually good to have on the show as well.
I've been very lucky with the people that I've been teamed up with in general. I've had nothing but good experiences so far.
So Cancertown 2, the Blasphemous Tumors, it's a sequel to An Inconvenient Tooth, which sort of like what was described, I believe, by Brian Tolbert as a cross between Lovecraftian horror and The Wizard of Oz.
Kind of, yeah. I've had a lot of these, because the one I went in with was Chinatown meets The Wizard of Oz, and various other people have thrown at me, other sort of this meets that things. It was Angel Heart meets something else, and generally speaking, the terms that they've been describing it have actually been better than the ones that I was using when I was pitching it. So I'm going to start sort of stealing those ideas and then making it look like I always intended it to be that sort of a collision.
Well, I'm reading a bit of the description here. It says, should have known better than to trust an angry, blinded monster with a spaz hand and a grudge. 6 months after the events of Cancertown and Inconvenient Tooth, Vince Morley is a dangerously sick man. Buckfuck is in a psychiatric hospital, sticky fingers picking through the darkest corners of the mind that brought Cancertown into existence. The crossing points between Morley's 2 realities are wearing thin, and all the rules are changing. Ooh.
Well, basically, you've done as good a job as I would have there. So
yeah, I think you would have done better.
You've now convinced me that you now have to be the voice of Morley from now on. I will always be reading his dialogue in your accent now. So it's 6 months on. And basically, the second book is about fulfilling a series of prophecies that were made by various characters in the first one. Without getting too much into the spoiler territory, but Bugfuck, who's been her personal circumstances have changed, and I'm just trying to not spoil the first book either. But her personal circumstances have changed, and she's now in a hospital, and because of her connection and how intimately involved she is with the creation and the functioning of Cancertown itself, when they're trying to make her better, they're trying to fix her in the real world. Uh-huh. What does that mean for the residents of Cancertown when she no longer believes in them? If they manage to actually cure her personal insanity, what does that mean for the people trapped there when she no longer even remembers them at all? And
also, what does it mean for Morley, who's actually using it as a way to manage his tumour?
Who actually has and he's reaching the stage now where he's absolutely on borrowed time. There was a prediction made by a character called Crosshair in the first one that he had maybe 6 months to live. And now we've immediately set this book 6 months later. And, he's now in the situation where he's really on borrowed time here. And right at this moment, when everything is changing, the Peacemaker, who's kind of the big, almost the sheriff of Cancertown, has vanished. He's nowhere to be seen. So there's nothing holding all of this, this mounting chaos together. And right at this moment, a new big player appears in Cancertown. This fuck-off great big monster who starts tearing his way through. He doesn't seem to be vulnerable in the way that many of the other players are to each other's, their own specialities and their own abilities. He seems to exist halfway outside of their rules, kind of in the same way that Morley does. And so Morley has to find out, what this thing is, where it came from, how to stop it. And then he has to make all the decisions, because now with the Peacemaker gone, he's really the only, the closest thing to an authority figure. So he's going to have to start making, exerting navigational control in a way that he really, he made that commitment to do at the very end of the first book. And that's the core tension of Blasphemous Tumors. Yeah, and for me, which is a personal joy, because every time you kill off a character that you spend a lot of time creating. I just have this little "no sequel for you" little that goes in the back of my head every single time it happens, and it happens a lot in this one.
That's it sounds like if I was actually writing my own stories and my own universes myself, I'd be king in characters and left, right, and center.
I mean, you almost have to.
It's fun. But, unlike the Americans, I wouldn't bring these characters back. There'll be no resurrection spell. But yeah, I enjoyed the first Cancertown, because if you remember, I did do quite a favourable review for it.
Yeah.
When I got it.
Thanks again for that.
And
we'll sort you out a preview PDF as soon as we have one together. It'll probably be a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hate reading PDFs.
Well, you could do it after the book's published.
I'm going to have to get a printer and print some of these PDFs out.
Well, that's what we did for Brian Talbot with the first one. We printed the whole damn thing out and sent it to him.
Cool. Yeah. Because I find PDFs incredibly difficult to read because of the screen glare. I know it sounds dumb, but that's why I don't like reading them, because of the screen glare off the screen.
That's a common complaint there.
So you've been launching Cancertown 2 at Thought Bubble in Leeds, right?
That's right, yeah.
That's the plan.
December.
I'm hoping to be there.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And if I am there, what I'm hoping to do is there's a little program attached to BlogTalkRadio, which hosts this show, I think. It's called Cinch, which is CINCH. And basically it allows you to sort of do a live broadcast from anywhere via your mobile phone.
Excellent. We'll hook you up with some creators and some other guys. I think not just on my book. We'll hook you up with some other guys who have projects that definitely deserve promotion.
That'd be cool, because I'm always
it's an incredibly vibrant time in the UK indies.
Yeah, I always enjoy looking at new stuff and whatnot. And that's one thing that I didn't go to Thought Bubble last year because of financial reasons. But the one thing I used to enjoy about it is, I just go around all the different stalls and talk to different people. I never necessarily bought anything. I was just talking to people, looking at what they had on offer and what they were selling and stuff like that. I just immensely enjoyed just working that floor.
So if you walk around there looking like you're recording people, I guarantee you'll be very popular.
That'll be fun.
It's the nature of the industry. Everyone's starving for attention. There's just so much good stuff out there.
There is. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, talking about some good stuff. You've been working with very closely with my good friend, our mutual great best friend Barry Nugent.
Certainly has. Yeah.
You get to hang with him more than I do, unfortunately, but that's by virtue of the fact that you're working with him. But I always like hanging with Barry when I get a chance.
Yeah, but the great thing about working with him is that he does keep the communication up. You never feel that you're being left out on a limb and you don't know what you're doing. And if you have a question, he has the answer. Because he's got this whole grand scheme planned out. He's got his his whole major arc So you essentially you can't put a foot wrong in such a way that he won't spot it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need to ask a question, what would a certain character do in a particular situation? He never comes back with, oh, I don't really know, I hadn't thought about that. He tells you, and then he'll provide text from the novels that will back that up, and you have your guide ropes. You never, so he's like the big sort of lighthouse of the whole the whole endeavor.
I enjoy when I get a chance speaking to Barry, because we've got a shared interest in similar shows. Similar TV properties and probably similar comics and books as well.
The thing is that what impresses me with people is when they are passionate about what they're doing, and when they go that much further than they could have got away with. And there are a lot of people who will do the least they can do. They'll do the minimum to get by, and it's functional, but it's not magical. But Barry has his shit down. He knows he knows exactly what he's doing, even though he doesn't necessarily admit that. But he's got a scheme.
Yeah.
And it means that you never get lost when you're working with him, and you never feel that you're being just thrown into a situation that you're shouldering a difficult amount of the burden.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if he was a Bond villain, he'd actually be dangerous. Because although he tells you his plans, you're working in his top secret Spectre organization. He wouldn't necessarily tell the spy James Bond his secret. So
I always fancied myself as an odd job.
He'd probably get away with it. Barry could probably get away with world domination, I think.
Yeah, that's book 3, I think. That's the overwhelming arc of that.
Joking aside, because I know he's going to be listening to this, and he'll probably kill me the next time at the end. But the latest thing that you got is you've actually got the honour of doing the first full-length graphic novel of an individual character from Barry's Fallen Heroes universe, and it's a Reverend, who's my favourite character.
Yeah, mine too.
and spoiler alert, he dies in the first book.
God damn it, is that right?
Well, everyone knows. I was really gutted when he died in the first book. He was just such a cool character.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're dealing with fiction, you've got the guy's whole life up to that point that we can still play with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what you see in Fallen Heroes, to me, anyway, what you see in the Reverend is you see him finally almost coming to terms with himself. He's reaching a point where he's found a fitting end to his own story. And so with Wrath of God, the short story I did for the first Unseen Shadows anthology.
Yeah, which I've got.
I dealt with the beginning, so his initial launch, which was always going to be the most traumatic, the most that's just the Reverend at his most raw and most furious. And so that's a very, very brutal story. And you see at the end, he's a much more tempered blade. There, he's colder and he's even more. He's more methodical. So with the new one, the 4-parter, which is called Blood Cries Out, we're kind of now charting the apex, the transitional point, the top of that arc. Yeah. So hopefully, when you step back and see the whole thing, it will all blend together. The thing is, Blood Cries Out isn't even the next story that I've got coming out in Unseen Shadows, and this is we've had now today, in fact, the first 3 pages of pencils from Valia on the Bob Kelsey story called the Immaculate Abortion of Dina Lee.
Cool.
Which is for the next anthology. So I'm right up in there.
Yeah, so to me, the Reverend, and the funny thing is, I actually read Fallen Heroes before I read Watchmen. But I kind of imagine Rorschach, had he become a man of the cloth, he'd probably be similar to the Reverend.
I can see that. I think Barry described him in terms of not exactly like the Punisher, but with some of that kind of energy to him, Mm-hmm. So obviously it's a very different character, and his motivations are very different. His philosophy is very different, but you can see that he's focused. At least when he's sort of settled into his role as he's sort of carved it out for himself. But yeah, he has these skills, and he has this compass, this internal compass, and I won't call it a moral compass because it's far from that. but it's he has this trajectory that he knows he cannot deviate from. And so with Blood Cries Out, I actually want to give him an obstacle that he may not be equipped to overcome. Because if you see him in Wrath of God, you see him in Fallen Heroes, he's equal to virtually any challenge you could throw at him. I mean, the man's he's an absolute machine. He's so perfectly specialized in this one field of endeavor. But he's not necessarily the first product of the organization that built him. He's not necessarily their top line product. And so I want to give him. I'm giving him in Blood Cries Out. I'm giving him an obstacle that he may not be prepared for, and that's going to challenge this man of faith in a way that we won't have seen before. If it comes off as I'm hoping it will, then it's going to be a very different power balance in this story.
Cool.
It's Predator versus Predator this time.
I'm definitely getting this one. I'm definitely going to get this one when it comes out because I've been following the Fallen Heroes anthologies as best as I can. I just bought the anthology book when it came out, and yours was kind of the first story I went to in it.
Outstanding.
Because I wanted to sort of read something on the Reverend. And I just really enjoy that whole universe, and I've never actually listened to the audio ones that Barry's been doing, but
I've heard a fair bit of that, and I was extremely impressed with the production values and the whole way it was put together. I love the cast that they assembled for it.
Mm-hmm. But it's such a great universe that Barry's built with lots of different characters. I mean,
you spend a lot of time imagining, how these characters are going to be sounding and how they're going to be interacting. But it's another experience altogether when you actually hear it happening. Mm-hmm. You actually have somebody giving you a vocal performance of them.
Mm-hmm. But the fun thing is, you actually did Barry approach you to do these now? I can't remember. Did he approach you or did you approach him? Because I know that you always wanted to do the Reverend. I do know
I think as far as I can tell, we kind of danced around the issue for months, and eventually it was him who actually raised the question explicitly, and I thought, yes, Reverend, give me that one. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it seemed that it turned out that we'd both been thinking along the same lines for a while.
Did you not have a backup plan?
It's nice to be asked,
Did you not have a backup plan though? If you couldn't get the Reverend, was there another character within that story that you would have liked to have messed around with?
Twist number 2 would have been Napoleon Stone.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt, Napoleon Stone.
For the first one, but only to be my first story.
Because I seem to recall in the novel, Napoleon Stone and the Reverend have a very, very interesting relationship.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean, in some ways there are parallels, in some ways they're polar opposites. But it's at the end, it's like it's two sort of old war horses, and there's this wonderful pivotal scene in the novel where they actually you sort of open up to each other for one time and just talk as men, mm-hmm. who have some commonality in their shared experience.
Mm-hmm. So when
their experience has shaped them in such different ways.
Mm-hmm. When do you think the graphic novel will be out? Is this song like probably 2013 we're looking at?
Yeah. There have been some dates, sort of loose dates, bandied about, but I don't know that they've been announced, so I don't know that I can say anything. Mm-hmm. But it'll be a while yet.
Yeah, because I just saw I got the announcement. I mean, I think Barry did actually, he Facebooked it, but I don't think he actually got the press release.
But I mean, it's usually a safe bet with a full length book that the art's going to take a year or so to get finalized.
Mm-hmm. And the other book that you're working on that you've got coming out, you mentioned it before. I can't remember the title of it, but it sounded interesting. Supernatural espionage thriller. This is my foray into the spy-fi realm with a paranormal espionage thriller called Phantom Lung and the Garden of Dead Liars. Aha, yeah.
Which is it's basically the idea of it is it's the one successful product of Cold War era Russian experimentation in remote viewing techniques. So paranormal spycraft reappears now in the
21st century.
Yeah, in the 21st century, and starts systematically hunting down every last living person who is involved in the project. And he essentially is hopping from body to body, and he's transmitted through inhalation. So you breathe him in, he takes you over, he becomes you, you become him, and then he discards you when he's done with you. And so he's leaving this trail of borrowed, stolen, and murdered bodies in his wake everywhere he goes.
Sounds nice. It's just kind of a little bit inconvenient that people are just dropping dead, but hey, must move on.
Yep. Well, this is the thing. I've been accused of nihilism with books like The Indifference Engine, and I'll wear the nihilist hat. In fact, I'm going to actually once we finish it, I'm going to go out and try and source and procure an actual nihilist hat. But this one, Phantom Lung is probably the most nihilistic thing I've written, at least in terms of the outlook of one of the main characters. It's
kind of funny actually, because I seem to recall when you and I first started talking back in 2008, I think it was. I did the first interview with you for the SciFiPulse website. You had Phantom Lung as one of your projects that was happening back then, even. I do. I tend to sit on things occasionally too long, because once in a while you'll find that something that you've been a story idea that you've been nursing and crafting and polishing and making beautiful for a long time. Suddenly a real writer comes out and does something very similar and it's perfect. And you have to abandon it or cannibalize it for something else, and it's heartbreaking when that happens. But yeah, I mean, this one's been around for a little while in various sort of evolutionary stages, and to be at the point where now we're breaking serious ground on it, it's just really exciting. One of the things that I love about working in comics is that it's an industry where you just get an email from a collaborator, from an artist, or from an editor, and it's like a birthday present because it's progress on this project, and this thing is getting out into the world, and it's I've said this before, but it's the closest thing to real magic I can imagine. Mm-hmm. And that's actually quite fitting, because before you went into this, you was a street magician for a while.
Well, I didn't work on the streets. I worked in stores and I did professional shows up to a point, but. I wasn't one of these clowns who goes around with a camera crew and edits together takes and makes it look like they're doing things that are way more impressive,
So he wasn't David Blaine who does really stupid things that no one cares about.
He does mad stuff, Blaine, I have to say. And there's a thing, you never badmouth another magician, particularly one who's vastly more successful than you ever were. But I think the construction of David Blaine as a character to be presented to the world, I think, is just a masterwork. Because obviously, he goes around, he's got camera crews, and they use the best takes, and then there's a certain amount of deceptive editing that goes on. But the product that is David Blaine, whether he's sitting in a box over the Thames or freezing himself, standing inside what appears to be a block of ice, there's actually just a little miniature igloo. The fact that he could make that, right? The fact that he could make that a television spectacular, standing in an igloo for a few hours. There are actually people who do that, have been, who do that as their actual accommodation arrangements, and nobody's giving them primetime TV specials for it and paying them millions of dollars and advertising endorsements and hanging them over the River Thames in a glass box.
Yeah, I just wanted to drop him over the River Thames in a glass box, to be honest.
I think his people were surprised at the general lack of reverence that was exhibited toward him by the British public. I think they were expecting people to be somewhat more in awe, and what they actually got was people showing their asses and flying hamburgers round and round in with these radio-controlled helicopters and just sort of good, clean, fun shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm a fan of and you're probably gonna reach out across the computer screen and strangle me here, but. As far as magic goes,
actually, I have a strangle button, I think, on my new science phone.
Oh shit, I'm in trouble now. I'm actually a fan. I liked what David Copperfield was doing in the 80s and the 70s, you know, and I kind of liked his approach.
What he was doing was redefining what magic meant to the general population in that time. So I guess you can't, you know, whether or not you know, you like an individual performance of him, you cannot argue that he. You know, you can't argue with the success that he had and the way that he inspired basically an entire industry of him.
I just love the way he presented everything. Although I did feel that he'd taken it a bit too far when he did the whole special where he supposedly walked through the Great Wall of China.
Yeah, the least effective piece of magic for me was the escape from Alcatraz, which essentially he actually instructed you to think of it more as a TV movie, you know, rather than a magic performance. And so, like, he starts off, he's in like a jail cell, and I think he may even have been in a straitjacket. He gets out of the straitjacket, which is nice magic. He kind of waves his hand at the cell door, and it opens. And then he kind of waves his hand at the cameras, and they switch off. And you know, he ends up doing a costume switch with one of the guards and flying away in a helicopter. And you look at the helicopter, and the rotor is going around about 1 cycle a second. So he's obviously in a fake helicopter. So,
yeah, I mean,
anytime the guy ducks behind the camera, he will when you stand behind the camera, you will appear to have disappeared. It's no more convincing, right? For you to duck under the camera, and for the camera to turn 360, and to see nothing, right? That's not any more effective. How you don't have to be particularly magic smart to suspect that the guy just ducks behind the camera and is just turning around, you know, just staying behind the cameraman, and yet. So many magicians use that. Yeah,
I also like Penn and Teller.
Penn and Teller, absolutely.
Yeah, they're completely nuts. I love you guys.
Magic heroes.
You know, but you know, I've never actually studied magic. You know, to be honest, I don't really want to know how a trick's performed because I kind of like the not knowing of it. In a sense, although
I'm absolutely itching to tell you about a story that I can't yet fucking talk about, which is magic related.
I think you did actually sort of subtly hint at that sometime back in one of our Skype conversations. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's one of the ones I can't quite talk about just yet.
Yeah. You know.
But it was inevitable, really. You know, with the background. I've touched on conjuring in short stories. I did one called "Remember This Moment" in a Layer Zero anthology for Insomnia, and it's there in my mind. So eventually, it's going to be there in my work. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I was just thinking, you know, you've done a lot of horror stories. You're doing a spy story, supernatural spy story. You know, what would you say some of your inspirations are? You know, in comic books, or it be films, TV, or whatever.
See, I do find this a difficult question to address because most of my influences don't come from comics, I would say. I mean, because there's stuff. I was a huge William Gibson fan in the 80s, and I still find his writing and story construction absolutely fascinating. But you'd be hard pushed to point at anything of mine and saying, "Oh yeah, that one's been influenced this way." I mean, I grew up on TV shows like Sledgehammer. You know, but where would you find that in what I'm writing? I don't know. So, you know, it's all one rich tapestry. But yeah, I would say that the majority of the things that I'm, you know, in terms of I think Usual Suspects has one of the most fascinating scripts I've ever read. Don't know that you see it anywhere in my work though. So I mean, I don't really have a very easy answer for that.
I just thought of that because you know, you seem to, you know, the first thing I read of yours was Cancertown, and you seem to have sort of like dabbled in different genres such as Slaughterman's Creed, which is another book I read, which was fantastically gruesome. Lovely.
Well, the thing is, you know, if you've got a bunch of stories competing to get out onto the page, generally speaking, I find I'm going to write the one that is a genre I haven't tried before. You know, so that's it's not so much it's not like a conscious effort to just tick off the boxes, do one of each. You know, I've done the horror one, I've done the science fiction one, I've done the, you know, whatever the hell White Knuckle is. But it's much more a case of you've got a lot of competing ideas. You can only really write, a limited number of them at a time, and so the ones that fight hardest to get out tend to be the ones that are something new to me.
Yeah. So, is there any chance of a romance comic coming out then?
Well, the two things I'm having the hardest time bringing to fruition would be something like that, or an all ages title, and my publishers are always on me to broaden the scope of my potential readership, but by doing stuff that's not for kids but appropriate for everybody. And I don't know what appropriate for everybody even means.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because I've seen a lot of stuff that's appropriate for everybody, and I hate most of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Catwoman comic that they released, the first of the 52 DC comics, the first issue of Catwoman, had a quite a pronounced, shagging scene with Batman and Catwoman, and
well, that's appropriate for everyone. Surely,
I guess that's appropriate for everyone.
Well, I mean, it's not to sort of denigrate the whole effort to make things like that. There's some fantastic stuff. Ian Sharman does some terrific all ages work. But I'm a firm believer that you write the stories that you have in you. And right now, I don't know that I have anything in the all ages bracket that would speak to me. If you make it appropriate to everybody apart from the person who wrote it, I don't know that it would come out as something I'd be amazingly pleased to have been involved with. But who knows? I could come off the Skype and 15 minutes later have a fantastic idea that would work that way. It hasn't happened yet.
I actually have difficulty imagining you writing something like Thundercats or He-Man or something like that.
Because that in itself is probably a good reason to try and do it, wouldn't you say? But I mean, would I take an all ages title seriously from me? I don't know.
I mean, I think if I was to do He-Man, I'd have him brought back to Earth and living among us, and he'd be a drag queen with machine guns, and he'd hold up banks and do nice jobs. But that's because I don't like He-Man. So.
Well, what can I say? You're a visionary. Oh, actually, visionary. That's another one you could reboot. Knights of the Magical Light. They had little holograms in their chest. You're one of them.
Thunderbirds. That you could reboot that. Given that they did such a.
Hasn't that been done? Haven't they all rebooted Thunderbirds?
They did a film a couple of years ago, but
And Captain Scarlet and about everything else. Anything Jerry Anderson related, I would be all up for any number of reboots on those. They never get old. They never get tired.
Yeah, I mean, think you and I got into a conversation some time back about Joe 90.
Joe 90, my God, that's a character.
That's a character that's never been rebooted. That's the one that's actually never been rebooted in television terms. But I think they've done a few comics of him. But that'd be a good character to go with. Just try and get a reboot for. Maybe Mark Osier should get on the case.
Maybe. It's one of the things. It's not specifically Joe 90 related, but this is one of the areas I'm tiptoeing around because there's stuff that I'm working on that I can't talk about. It's not specifically that, but it might be a bit too close to that, and so it's a minefield, this whole conversation. Okay, well,
sort of like films and television then, sort of like, out of the books that you've got out there at the moment, what ones would you like to see adapted to a film, and, what actors could you see playing the roles,
Okay. We'll start with the obvious ones. Cancertown with, let's say, Tom Hardy as Morley.
Yeah, he'd do. I think actually Morley kind of looks a little bit like Tom Hardy.
He'd have to lose a lot of weight for the second one. A lot of weight for the second one. Let's see. Indifference Engine. Colin Farrell as everybody in Indifference Engine. Why not?
Oh God, it's not a man's creed. I can actually see there being a role for Bob Hoskins in there, but he's kind of like retired now. So.
Yeah, there's some sad news about him. But Mark Strong as Sidney, and that would be magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
The man with a tremendous presence he has, and he doesn't have to say anything. He turns in an almost silent performance in some ghastly film called Revolver. But he's brilliant in it, and everything else in that film is appalling. But he is brilliant.
That was Jason Statham film, right? Revolver?
Yeah, kind of. If you call a film in which Jason Statham has hair a Jason Statham film, I think they're missing something fairly fundamental about him there.
I just don't really think Jason Statham, you know, I don't really take him that seriously as an actor, but, you know, his films are damn right entertaining.
They absolutely are. And the man can do a standing back somersault.
Yeah, he used to be a diver. I think he was an Olympic diver.
And you never see him do it. The only time I've seen him do it is in an outtake from Lock, Stock. But anyone who can do a standing back somersault is automatically an Oscar winner in my book.
You know, thanks for coming on. It's been great conversation. Kind of meandered. We've meandered from what comics you've got coming out to films and stuff like that. Is there any, you know, do you want to plug Cancertown comics?
Well, I should say that we're doing a pre-order special on Cancertown. The actual retail price, I believe, is going to be $16.99. We're doing it at the moment, I think, for $12. And anybody who pre-orders now, we're going to be throwing in a bonus DVD of extra stuff. Cool. You know, maybe some scripts, maybe some art, a few bits and pieces. Details on the website. If you go to raggedman.com, my blog, there's a link there. You click to the pre-order details page. It tells you everything. The other thing is, we've talked for a little while about me maybe writing a sort of a semi-regular column for the website.
Yeah, for SciFiPulse, something, yeah.
So I want to just maybe put out like a general call here. I want to really, if I do this, I want to be sort of spotlighting, you know, British talent, people with new projects coming out. So if people do have, you know, books coming out or things kicking off that you'd like to be featured on this thing, I'm well up for taking a look or talking to you. So we'll probably start with the people who know me. But yeah, if you've got a project coming up, if you've got something coming out, get in touch. All right, it's my email address is on my website in the contact me section, and give me a shout and we'll see if we can showcase you a bit.
Cool. Okay, well, you know, I'm gonna wrap the show now. It's been great having you on, and you're always welcome to come on anytime you've got something you want to promote or talk about. And anyway, thanks for being on the show.
Cool, well, thanks for having me.
No problem.
Blog Talk Radio, where millions of hosts and listeners gather.